for most people, this is just a consumer level auto class. Okay, so anyways, I'm excited about next semester. We're gonna get after it. We're gonna make the best of whatever situation we find ourselves in, you know, because that's the best you can do is the best you can do, you know. All right, so let's go this way.
Real quick, may I chime in a little bit?
Please.
We're talking about the meters, which I have one and I use it, but I'm finding now that it's all well and good to have the meter, but I'm finding out that I need to get a selection of those wires to back probe whatever component I'm testing. Any suggestions?
Yeah. Now, Chinese stuff is perfect for that. I will say that I don't know if I told you, but Toyota now, their official policy is no more back probing.
Okay.
None. Now, people are saying, well, what's back probing? That's not it. That's us trying to make believe. Okay, that's back probing. Basically, what it means is you're coming in here with an electrical connector in the back of a connector so that you can test it without disconnecting it. Now, you know, Scott Brown did a whole video on some jackass that pierced the insulation on a no-start Suburban. It's a great video too. Yeah. Now, this is horrible, dude. Have you seen this picture? Look, first of all, they pierced the insulation, which is terrible. And they've got it off at an angle, which is even worse because you can see how big a hole they've torn. Plus, they're using a test light. This is like the picture of don't do this, you know, but that's what they're doing instead of back probing. Are you talking about these leads like that?
Back yeah, all the special different leads. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like acupuncture test needles.
I mean, are those tips universal to any meter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is T-pins. Now you can get these T-pins at, you know, Walmart, whatever, any place, or a craft store would have these T-pins. There's two different sizes. Get the smaller one so it doesn't violate stuff so much. That's basically back probing, is we're going into the back of a connector so that we can test it without disconnecting it. So for instance, we can test it while it's in operation. And if you use back probing as your descriptor in Google, you can see all kinds of pictures like this. Now, the weird thing is you don't see these. I would buy a bitchin' set like that just because I think it looks cool. Now, this looks kind of like homemade. See, they're sticking it in the back of the PCM. But that's what all these people are doing. Yeah, watch out for that. See, what they're talking about, and the reason Toyota doesn't want you to do back probing anymore is because, first of all, we got weather-tight connections, which are supposed to be sealed, and if you go stick a big rod in it, it's going to break the seal and probably bring corrosion in. And also because they don't want to lose the tension on the connectors. So if it was me, Chuck, I would go here and I would go back probes. And you got a bunch of stuff like that. There's a back probe kit that's got 20 pieces. That's kind of groovy. This will fit into your, see what you want. See, I kind of actually like this because it's got a straight one, a 45-degree and a 90-degree angle. But you have to have the kind of leads that will fit into that. So yeah, lots of choices. I would probably not get the insulation piercing ones. That's bad luck. Now, this is for taking, wow, that's cheap. Have you seen this? That's for taking apart those terminals so you can retension them.
Those are cool.
That's cheap. So that's good. I don't know if I'd get that expensive. Yeah, see, there's the master combo kit for the Power Probe 4. It's $421. It's like, I don't even need that. So anyways, that's what I would do. I would get one of these, and if you don't have the right leads, you know, well, this will give you the right leads, put it that way. See, you want to have a male banana end on each side, on each end. So, you know, if you were to get this and this, it would cost you $25 and you'd be like the king or queen of back probe life. Hashtag back probe life. Yes, I don't think that's what I would like, but you got to get good leads. Good leads are important. I am kind of wondering about this battery tester that Kizzy makes. You never know. $40. Well, anyway, we could look into that.
I have one from Harbor Freight, does a pretty good job.
Is it $40 though?
I
See
forget.
now,
It's digital.
yeah. Now I want to look into Kizzy and see all their stuff. See if I can get a good deal on it.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Since we're talking on this subject right here, I had a situation where I was doing for a relative a simple changing a light bulb, for example, on a Honda, and kind of a long story, but I'll make it quick. So anyway, the headlights were out. To get to the one bulb, you have to disconnect the battery. I was pretty much game to do it, but I went to YouTube and looked it up and looked straightforward. And the guy says, before you do that, you need to put a memory saver on there, because the audio on the Honda, you lose that battery, you got to get a special code to turn it on.
Yeah,
So
it
now,
thinks it's going.
right. So now that got me on the hunt to get the little adapters to hook up to the OBD port. That the second part of that is what source of battery power. OTC makes a battery to memory saver, or do you just
Can
get
you use the one that plugs into the cigarette lighter and uses only a 9-volt battery?
yeah, but see, that's kind of old technology because those time out over time. The OBD,
As long as you keep a fresh battery in it
yeah,
whenever you
well,
do the job.
yeah, but what happens if it takes the job's gonna take, overnight, for example? That does happen.
Uh,
Are you saying the OBD times out or the cigarette
Oh,
lighter
the
times
cigarette
out?
lighter. The cigarette lighter.
if you're not opening the doors and disconnect the hood light, it will survive overnight.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that now the procedures to work on these cars is that disconnecting the battery wasn't a big deal, but now with all electronics and to
Right.
relearn, these are habits that I think that I'm teaching myself that I'm going to have to invest money in to cover myself to not
Real
make
quick,
it
go
work.
back up a little bit. I like that one adapter you had right there. That one, the OBD2 cigarette one. Go down.
What good does
Because
that do?
you could use that with a battery booster, and you could plug the cigarette port into your battery booster, set it on the driver floor, plug it in the OBD port, and it will last you 48 hours.
Right.
I would rather do it this way. See that? You can get this 12-volt battery for $20, right? And then you could just get one of these right here down the road. That's what I would do, because this, I don't think this is going to time out.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I would do. And if you have to buy a $20 battery every 7 years, I think you could probably factor that into your pricing, So that's probably how I would do it. It would cost you $20 plus 20. I mean, it's $33 and you'd be down the road. Right. That's how I would do it, I think. Yeah, I've always been very suspicious of these 9-volt battery things and the cigarette lighters, because you leave one door open, you're in trouble. But yeah, and if it times out, you're even more trouble. So that's what I would do. Get the one that plugs into the OBD2 port. Yep, I think that's what they want. Well, that's got the built-in charger if you want to spend $70.
There's also another trick. If you ever get one where the radio does pop up and say you need the code, you can take the registration of the car, go down to the Honda dealer and tell them you're a mechanic working on it. They can get you the code to input
Of course, they're
into
going
the
to.
vehicle. Worst case scenario, you just take the owner with you.
Yeah, because I was about to say they aren't going to just like, oh, okay, here's the code. They're going to demand some form of some proof of ownership. So that's what I do. Tell you what, Chuck, order me one too. And no, I don't really need. But I got to tell you, if you're going to do this kind of work, that's what you got to do. Now, what my pal Robert Torrance used to do is he would disconnect the battery with the engine running. And he said he never had a problem with this. And he was actually a factory Honda and Buick and GM mechanic. So if you don't know, who knows? But that made me nervous as hell. But he said he never had a problem with it. But I see that, you know, if you're going
I
to
like
run it
that
overnight,
set
now,
there.
what say what?
I like that set with the gator clips, a cigarette plug, and the OBD one for $18.
Yeah.
Yeah, that because that gives you the capability of using the cables as a jump starter too.
Oof, on a freaking 18 gauge wire? That's not how I would do it, but oh, okay. So there is actually a video of two high school dudes using like just like a number 10 wire as a jumper wire. I'm like, it's very disturbing. So I suppose if you left it there long enough, it would charge. All right, what else? Let's get back at it. Okay,
I think it's like to start the car, but to like trickle charge your battery,
right,
you use it that way.
right. Okay. Now, the last thing we talked about was tire balance. And we talked about how if you had the wheel, oh, Chuck, incidentally, when they moved the freaking Encore brake lathe, they broke some pieces.
You mean
And they used,
broke it?
yeah, and they used permanent stickers that I don't know how to get off. But yeah, they, I think we can still use it, but I think it's the part that holds the little silencers on it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't hurt
So-
my baby. Don't hurt my baby.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, I got to spend like $3,300 by Friday. You got any druthers? I was going to get a AC recovery system, but
Yeah.
might be too much with money. You got any druthers? Anything else, Rudy? Anybody? I need to spend like $3,300.
What
So
about that battery tester I was telling you by Altal that was that BT 60 something 608?
yeah, but is that going to get me to 3,300?
No, but it gets you about $800.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I need something that does. Oh, I need battery chargers like crazy. Yeah, I was trying to make it all in one purchase instead of 50, but okay. Yeah, let me think about that. Thank you.
What about the
Yeah.
new Altal?
That's too expensive. That's like $5,000. The Autel Ultra, that's like
Yeah.
$5,000, 54, something like that. Yeah, I looked. Autel, that's bitching car. That's bitching though. I think I can come pretty close because I've got that little VCI box, whatever it is. I've got that. So I got a couple of them actually. So I think we can come pretty close with what we have. But geez, we'll have to see. We'll have to get back and actually try, you know.
What about that Altal that the 60 something that does the key coding for Mercedes?
Well, we don't do that much, you know.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Key
Why?
code.
You got a Mercedes? You need the key code done?
no, but that it's a niche market, so to speak.
Right. Well,
It's hard to
not
program.
mine. Hey, if I want to change the battery in my key fob, is it going to require reprogramming?
Yeah.
It depends on the car. I mean, some key fobs are just for the locks. Other key fobs, you got to have the PIN number for the PCM.
Beautiful 2008 C6 Corvette. If I want to change the battery, am I going to have to reprogram it?
Yeah.
Rudy, what do you think?
I don't think so, but let me make a phone call and I'll let you know.
Yeah, right. It's like I don't want to assume that I know everything and then
I
find
will
out.
call my locksmith from East LA and find out for you. I will be dark for a few minutes.
East LA locksmith, doesn't that mean a guy with a big rock? That was a joke.
No, bro, the one from our school.
I know. That was just a East Coast joke.
Remember the guy that has the mobile key shop?
Oh, that's right, huh?
Yeah, I got it. I got his number. He's my locksmith.
So what's the
He
answer?
drove all the way out here and rekeyed my aunt's house for me.
Well, I had someone key my car once. That was a joke. The point I was trying to make was we're talking about tire balance. And we're talking about tire balance, which is a big time important thing because Not only just because of ride comfort, but it's also a safety issue because the tire balance has to be pretty good. Otherwise, it's going to be loading your suspension and it's going to wear out your struts quick. And, it's going to bring the tread into more and less contact with the road, which is a bad, unsafe condition. So there's two types of tire balance. This type right here is called static, and that's when it's not moving. Like I said, you can spin this wheel while it's still in the vertical plane. You can spin this wheel and the heavy part of the wheel will always end up facing down, just like you can do this on a bicycle or do the same thing. Well, if this thing is perfectly balanced, then this wheel will always end up in a random place because it's perfectly balanced all the way around. So what we have to do is we have to add weights to the side opposite from where the heavy side is so that it's equal all the way around. This is called static balance. In fact, you can see a billion videos on YouTube about people using bubble balancers. That's what the bubble balancer does. It puts the wheel and tire horizontally, and then it has crosshairs like this with a bubble on it. And what you do is you just keep adding weight to the wheel and tire until the bubble hits the middle of the crosshairs, and that's considered balance. But that's only static balance. That's unacceptable for a modern vehicle. Unacceptable. Now, you're going to have people, Deontorias, that tell you that you only need to balance the front tires. Not true, but you're
I
gonna,
have your answer.
what?
The answer is no. Changing the key fob battery will not affect the programming.
Good man.
By a certified locksmith.
Good. Then you can keep my snap-on torque wrench for another week, no charge. I'm so upset about that because I know somebody's got it. Yeah, I know somebody who doesn't got it. Anyways, so my point was, I was actually thinking about going outside of Snap-on for torque wrench, though. You know, if I save $30 or $40, would it be worth it to get a Matco or a Mac? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I know. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to Snap-on torque wrenches. They're just so beautiful. Anyways, so the point I was trying to make was
the space shuttle was not put together with a Matco or any other torque wrench.
True. All right. So that's static tire balance. That's unacceptable in a modern vehicle. Now, if you have an imbalance problem on the front wheels, it's going to show up a lot more than on the back wheels. And it's going to give you steering wheel shakes and stuff like that that you don't want no part of. But that doesn't mean you don't have to balance the back wheels. I don't know why these people say you don't have to balance the backs. Probably because they want to. Oh, I know why. Because when they quote you a job, of course I didn't mean I was going to do the backs too. Okay. So anyways, my point was, we have a new balancer. We got to set it up again. But see, now I got to set up all the workstations so they're 6 feet apart, which is dumb because, I had that little workstation with all the tire and wheel service stuff all in like a crescent. And then they say, well, you can have your classes outside. I'm like, okay, so how am I supposed to run all that power outside? I mean, I know how to do it, but am I supposed to buy $1,000 worth of freaking extension cords? So it's all nightmarish. That's why I love to see your smiling faces. It takes me out of my funk when I start to think about stuff like that. So that's static tire balance. But what we want to see when it comes to tires is if you got a weight here and you got a weight here, that's called dynamic tire balance. And that you need a sophisticated machine for. Do not let them balance your tire on a bubble balancer because it's freaking stupid. And make sure that they do it on a dynamic tire balance machine. Now, the good thing about the dynamic tire balance machine is that it's pretty easy to train someone who isn't really that smart to do this job, because all you got to do is you got to end up with zeros when you spin the tire for the last time. Problem is, a lot of these guys, they're like, well, as long as it's within a quarter ounce, nah, that's not what you want, because it's not going to get better. After you set the balance, it's not going to, and install the wheel and tire on the car, it's not going to get better. So you might as well start as good as you can. So there's a video that uses the more primitive balancer we have, and it walks you through the whole process. Now, there's two types of wheel weights. There's the stick-on type for aluminum wheels, and then there's the clip-on type for primarily steel wheels. Turns out there's like 12 different types of clip-on weights, because I tried to order some, and he's like, did you know there's 12 different types? I'm like, oh, God. He's like, would you like an assortment? I'm like, no, I already have one of those, but thank you. But we're going to get a whole lot more wheel weights. This year it's going to be wheel weights year. But that doesn't mean you can come in and use all my stick-on weights for free, because they're really expensive. So folks, if you want to balance your wheels and they've got stick-on weights, I'm afraid that you're going to have to come up with something, because I can't be giving away $30 worth of
Paga
stuff.
un poquito de dinero, amigo.
Good. You can va a la cocina y cookie arme some brownelitos.
No, that's Michelle that makes the brownies. I make the meatloaf. Get it right.
Oh, that's right. Huh? Yeah. Oh, that's a good meal right there. So anyways, my point was that dynamic tire balance requires a more sophisticated machine. Now,
maybe when we get back in class, I will bring meatloaf for the class.
Now you have to.
Yeah, he said it now, right?
Yep. We are.
Okay, so incidentally, the 26th is Thanksgiving Day, so I know it'll be hard to have Thanksgiving when you're missing class. That seems like two opposites.
Hey, real quick, I have a question.
What?
It's about if we start working outside, so you need temporary power, wouldn't you? Like some kind of, so they can't, there's no panel around there to tap like a bull cord and then, you know, put like a spider box of some type.
Yeah, but I have a strong feeling that if the district saw that, they would flip and say this is unauthorized, and the district electricity, yeah, because it's got to pass liability for the insurance. So, you know, God forbid the student gets electrocuted, then, you know, who are they going to go after besides me? You can guarantee they're going after me. So, I mean, everybody is obsessed with liability and trying to avoid it. So, you know, so the stuff that could be done that would make sense and make things great ain't going to get done because nobody wants to sign off on it. That's the nature of large organizations, right? So anyways, there are videos. Go to David Rocliffe, my YouTube channel. Go to Wrench Talk. There's a video on how to use the balancer that we actually have in the shop. So that would help a great deal. Now, there are much more sophisticated balancers. Hunter has a balancer that does what's called road force balancing, and they'll actually balance your tires, and they'll tell you which corner of the car to put the tires on. It's freaking awesome, but it's like a $12,000–$14,000 balancer, really expensive. But that's what the dealerships are using. Why? Because they want the balance to be primo and not cause comebacks. So that's not what we have, but we got a much better machine than what you're going to learn on from the video. But it's got lasers.
We got better balances than the Yantaria.
Yeah, and it does bigger wheels and tires. Now, here's the thing about the Yantaria. A lot of these Yantarias are using basically the same machine we got, which is fine, and it's easy to train people who ain't even that smart to use it. So the good thing is we've taken most of the user error out of it, just like the alignment machines. The alignment machines now are freaking awesome, and they give you videos of how to fix stuff. They give you pictures of where all the parts are and stuff, and how to adjust everything. So now it's much, much easier to be an alignment tech. Back in the
And
old
what
days,
tools you actually need to do it.
right, yeah, right, and which way you need to turn everything. So it's like, I don't want to say idiot proof, but it's much closer than it used to be. So wheel and tire balance. We talked about wheel and tire balance. It's a function of, the manufacturing inconsistencies in terms of the density of the materials. So sometimes you'll find that the heavy part of the tire and the heavy part of the wheel are both on the same side. And it gets to the point where it would take so much weight to balance this wheel and tire that the more sophisticated machines, like the $14,000 Hunter machine, like we had at Watts, it'll tell you to go ahead and demount the tire and then spin it 180 degrees on the wheel, because otherwise it just takes an insane amount of weight. You shouldn't be using more than 3 ounces. Well, hell, you shouldn't be using more than 2 ounces. But if you find yourself using more than 3 ounces, you got to start looking for a bent wheel. Now, how are you going to look for a bent wheel? Well, you put it on the balancer and you spin it and you just look, because a wheel should be turning true, by which I mean it shouldn't be going like this, and it shouldn't have a big bump in it where you hit the curb.
You
right?
can also balance just the wheel to make sure the wheel itself is balanced properly.
Well, you could check the wheel, sure. Yeah. But what we find a lot, what happens a lot in my shop is that we find bent wheels. We find bent wheels a lot because, these people run into curbs, or they bought it from someone who runs into curbs. So, as long as you have a significant imbalance like that, either it's going to take a ton of weight. Well, even if it takes a ton of weight, it's still not going to work right because it's bent. The wheel's bent. So it's going to induce a bunch of this into the steering. So bent wheels, that's one of the main things that we look for is bent wheels, because when people start dumping 3 and 4 ounces into the balance process, I'm like, no, it's got a bent wheel somewhere. And sure enough, that's what we find. That's one of the things we're going to be looking for. Now, incidentally, I watched that Chris Fix video on how to change oil, and it had kind of like 4 or 5 semi-significant errors in it. And I was like, you know what? I need to make a real good video. I need to make a true video, but what?
Yeah, but what? But what? I was waiting for it.
But EK, right? Yeah, seriously. So tire balance. So what do? Well, there's something we need to understand about what tire balance is and what it's going to have, the effect it's going to have on the vehicle. Number one, imbalance is going to create a very unpleasant kind of shake and shudder, especially if you step on the brakes. It's going to tend to buck and go wild. I've seen that a lot. But the primary problem you're going to have with wheel balance is, it's going to be extraordinarily dangerous to drive, because like I said, it's going to be loading and unloading the tread as the wheel and tire goes like this. But it's also going to be wearing the hell out of your steering and suspension system. Now, your suspension system tends to be pretty rugged, but your steering system tends to be very delicate. And this constant motion on your tie rod ends and stuff like that, it'll wear them out quick. Wear out your shocks too, and your struts. So this tire balance is no joke. So what we're going to do is, when you bring your cars in and you want to do a brake inspection or something like that, just as a matter of course, we're going to take the wheels and tires over to the tire balancer, and we're going to make sure that the wheels and tires are balanced. Look, folks, you need practice, right? People need practice. Okay, so that's one of the things we're going to do. So while someone is doing the brake inspection or undercar inspection or whatever you're doing, someone else can be out there checking the balance, doing the balance, whatever. And we usually find that there's work to be done, which is good. Because
Can I ask
what
a
we're
question?
trying to, yes, please.
Last time, remember one of my wheels was bent? Well, I got another one for my spare. So should I switch that one with the new one?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's what I figured.
Because a bent wheel will beat the hell out of your steering system and suspension system. And look, inside the rack and pinion, if you have a power rack and pinion, you've got this piston, right, connected to the tie rod. And if the tie rod's going like this, then the piston is going like this too. And you're driving down the road and this piston is going like this in the bore, and it's basically wearing a groove into the freaking bore. And
Well, you know how I said I'm squeaking my front end? It sounds like something's gonna fall apart. Like if it's loose, is what it sounds like. And I just got all that the rack and pinion stuff replaced too. So I don't know, but I got to figure out what it is.
so we break in the school, not to steal anything, but to actually fix some cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's funny. Anyway, so I noticed that I'm driving the Z06 a lot now because I don't have the red Corvette. Probably more than I should.
Let's do it, do it, do it.
It's fun car
What
to
happened to
drive,
the
though.
red Corvette?
The red Corvette, we pulled the trans out of like 2 weeks before they closed the school.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's what I said. That was 6 months ago. So yeah, I'm kind of sad about that. So tire balance is not just a comfort issue, it's a safety issue, and it's also a profound wearing of parts issue. Now, it's also going to cause tire wear called cupping. We talked about this last time, though, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah, cupping, which is going to wear
Yes.
out your tires. So if you let this problem go, it causes a million other problems, right? It's like if you have an oil leak in your power steering line and all that oil dumps all over your suspension system bushings or your steering parts, it attacks all the rubber. And now instead of having one little problem, you've got 8 big ones. So that's one of the things, I mean, that's one of the great things about what we do. We get cars up on the lift and it gives us the opportunity to really do a thorough inspection, find out what's really going on. And if there's a little problem, we can fix a little problem before it becomes a big, huge stinking
And
disaster.
teach you how to look and find it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right. But, you know, one of my big concerns about working outside is it involves, you know, working on the ground. And I have a philosophical objection to working on the ground. I just don't like it. I don't like it. Maybe it better simulates what people are going to do at home, or maybe it better simulates how people are going to work at Yantarrias. But I don't like it. I mean, it's 1,000 times less safe than working on a lift, and I think it's probably 1,000 times less effective. So that's my objection to that. Okay, so tire balance. 3 things you got to know in order to balance a tire. And there's little pictures on the tire balancer, so that makes it even easier. I think I'll go to the next page. Ah. Three settings before balancing. Number 1 is wheel width. And that's going to have this little thing that looks like this. I got to admit, that's actually a pretty great drawing right there. It's got a little pointer. Actually, it's not as great a drawing as I thought, but it's called calipers. It's for measuring the outside dimension of things. So then you insert the wheel width into the machine. Number 2 is wheel diameter. And how do you find the wheel diameter?
Reading it off the tire.
Yeah, reading it off the tire. So if you have a 285/75 R18, it's this number right there. You know, we're talking about bringing high school students back. I have a sneaking hunch that once they find out that being back at school means that they're going to have to be in masks for 6 hours a day, every day, and that they're not going to be able to come within 6 feet of any of their friends, and they're going to have to eat their lunch all by themselves. I have a sneaking hunch everybody's going to go. They're all, well, almost all of them are going to go to distance learning. I don't think they'll want to be back at school.
My daughter wants to go back to school.
Yeah, but does she know the conditions under which she'll be going back to school? School ain't gonna be like the way it was. Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I absolutely hope I'm wrong. I hope that my fears are not true.
She keeps on saying that she doesn't feel like she's really getting anything. She's a senior too, so she's like,
They're not. I mean, I talked to a student today who said that they were getting 50 minutes of instruction a week. We're giving all of us. No, I'm not gonna talk. We're giving all of us. Never mind. Yeah, she's getting 50 minutes of instruction a week.
Wow.
You know.
Stop recording first.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So the third thing is offset, and students tend to have a problem with this offset measurement. So that's what I want to address. Offset means distance of wheel rim. Hey, Vadim, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Would you buy or sell real estate through, what's the name, home buyers, whatever? You think that's a good idea?
Like the home buyer's insurance?
No. What's the name of what you were using, Rudy?
For sale by owner.
Well, for sale by owner, you basically sell without, without having an agent represent you. Well, there's look, you don't pay a commission, but then you don't know if you're gonna. Well, but then it's all up to you to sell it, because sometimes agents can price it and basically make up their commission also in a sell price. You know, they will sell it for more expensive for you sometimes. Especially now, just know it's a seller's market, man. Like it's
No,
such a
but
seller's
the
market.
thing is my house needs a lot of TLC.
Yeah.
It's not had any real work done to it in the last 40 years.
You need to talk to Sam Jacoby and have him do an inspection, because you have to divulge every problem with that house.
Totally.
And anything you don't divulge, they can come after you for.
That's why
So-
it's being sold as is, where is, what is.
I see.
And I'm not selling it to your traditional buyer.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm
Maybe to
selling
a
it
flipper.
to like investors
Yes.
that are buying it to fix it up, to flip it,
Yeah.
to make
a
that
flipper.
money.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just, that makes me nervous as hell. Anyways, my point was that offset is defined as the distance of the wheel rim from the machine. So that has to be measured. You can watch the video to see actually the process of how to do it, but I just want to explain it so that you'll be more calm about it, because a lot of people, they don't get the offset thing. See, wheels can be offset this way or this way from the hub. See, the hub goes like this, the wheel studs go like this. Wheels can be offset this way or this way from the hub to fit under particular vehicles.
Positive or negative offset depending
Positive or
on
negative
the
offset.
surface.
Yeah, exactly. So that has to be set in the machine before you run the balancer. After that, you just pull the little hood down and let the thing spin. And what can I tell you about that other than to say there's going to be little indicators that tell you
You're
where
not going to draw the little arm that you use to measure it with?
that's the offset.
Exactly.
Oh, I forgot
You're
number
gonna draw
4.
the little-
Number 4. No, that's in the video. Number 4 is what type of weights and where. Now, do you want to use clip-on weights? Do you want to use stick-on weights? Do you want to use clip-on weights on each side? Do you want to use clip-on weights on only one side? Do you want to use clip-on weights, one clip-on weight and then stick-on weights? Do you want to use all stick-on weights? Anything like that. All I can tell you folks is if you can put a clip-on weight on the back where nobody's going to see it, you want to do it that way because stick-on weights are incredibly expensive and they have a much greater chance of coming flying off than clip-on weights. So the more clip-on weights you can use, the better, because it's going to save you stick-on weights. So they're going to ask you, what type of weights do you want? Do you want to use stick-on? You want to use clip-on? Clip-ons you bang on with a hammer. Stick-ons you got to prepare the surface and then they stick. Incidentally, I told you a certain cheap type of wheel weights that's not even worth trying. You got to use the professional stuff, which is why it's expensive. And wear means there's a bunch of different places you can put the weights based on, if are these, glamour rims where you don't want to see weights on the front, then you're going to have to put them somewhere else. So these are the 4 settings you're going to have to do. Well, 3 settings and then your final mode button is what they call it. And that's going to, I don't think that's explained in the video very well. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Then you spin the wheel and tire assembly and it'll tell you where to put the weight. After that, it's pretty self-explanatory. The only problem is where you put the weight is at the top. So if you're doing stick-on weights, it's where you can't see it. So you have to spin it 180 degrees exactly and put the weights there. Folks, it's very important that when you're putting on clip-on weights with a hammer, it's very important that you put it exactly where the weight's supposed to be, because if you shift it this way or this way, it can throw it out of balance. So it's a hard thing to demonstrate. That's why I like the video, because it's a hard thing to demonstrate to a bunch of people, because you're basically bending over the machine and everybody can't see it. I was thinking of getting a body camera, but I'm not sure if that's going to be, I've seen people with like GoPro headsets, but I was thinking about getting a body camera. I was thinking about getting one of those anyway.
Have a GoPro that's like a necklace and it mounts a camera right beneath your chin.
That would be good because people always want to punch me for some reason. Often it's me. So anyway,
is it comfortable for motorcycles?
I wonder why.
Is it comfortable for riding motorcycle, the one that goes on the chest? Because I don't want to put on a helmet, the GoPro.
Right.
I've never used it, but one of my YouTubers, he uses it when he's driving like his Lamborghini and his Ferraris and stuff, where he has to have both hands to operate the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I guess you would get used to it, I guess.
I'll look for it.
Okay, so wheel balance is going to be more pronounced when your shocks or struts are worn out. There we go. So how do you know if your shocks or struts are worn out? Incidentally, Jerry, I'm glad you got a scan tool. That's a big upgrade, right? That makes you very powerful for very cheap. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to increase our bang for the buck, right?
Yes, I had 3 check engine lights. I removed 2 because I changed the sensors. So now I have one that I just replaced it, but I think I gotta clean the wire maybe. But yeah,
Okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah, right?
It's the best, man, for the money.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is, you
What's
save
it, Jerry?
$100.
Huh?
It's like you save a week's salary.
I got it for 71 at Amazon, and
Don't you,
oh,
Jerry?
man. I'm gonna eventually get the $400 one you said. I recommend it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm wondering if they're all made in the same factory, but yeah, a simple scan tool is more than sufficient for 85% of the stuff you're going to be facing.
Can I tell you something?
You just did. Go ahead.
You are the best, and I mean it, because it actually has a patent on it about the VIN number. So I had no problems. I already knew what the problems were. So man, you nailed it, dude. You're the best, man.
Nah,
I don't think
just been doing it a
nobody's
long
gonna
time.
beat you right now anytime soon.
Man,
Unless it's me or Rudy. I doubt Rudy.
shove a brownie through the USB port to you.
Cause,
I
'cause
appreciate
one
that,
day
dude.
I might go to Citrus College, like you said. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
But for
Yep.
now, I'll stick to your class.
Well, RCC. I forget where you live.
Well, I'm in Riverside, downtown.
RCC
right-
is a GM Ford Chrysler factory school, isn't it?
Who?
RCC, Riverside Community College.
No, I'm gonna go to Citrus, like you said. I'm gonna actually listen to you.
Well, yeah, but that's a long walk. I mean, RCC has got to be right where you live, right?
It doesn't matter. I'm in a high desert right now because I'm looking for a body shop that's gonna fix a brand new car. So it doesn't matter. I go where you say.
Well, I'm just saying it's got it. I mean, if it's been a GM Ford Chrysler training center for like 20 years, so they got to know what they're doing.
No, I'm good. I'll stick to Citrus College.
Okay.
Maybe I'll run into somebody that I know and I tell them that you recommended the class, and then maybe I could get some royalties.
Yeah. Get some W-2s. Yep.
About that.
All right. So that's a tire balance thing. We how do you know if your shocks and struts are bad?
You push on the front end.
Push down and let go.
Yeah.
And it should go. That's
Go
it.
back to where it was.
If it goes, that's no good.
Right.
Now, when we got fast, we could do a set of 4 struts in the evening, but that requires some humming on a whole bunch of parts. Now, if you're a factory technician, you could probably get it done in 2 hours, but we don't expect to go that fast. So if you buy the whole cartridges, which is to say the shock and the spring together, yeah, we can get it done in an evening. It's hard to get, if you just buy the cartridge and not the spring, and then we got to like rebuild that thing. It's hard to get that done in 3 hours. I mean, me and Rudy have done it, but it took a lot out of Rudy. I remember he was a tired little boy after that night. So, what we want to do, and I want to remind you, is when we go in the shop,
I
we
don't
want
work that hard anymore.
right.
Just buy the R&R
Yeah.
spring kit.
Yeah. So yeah, because the money you're saving on labor is what, is going to pay for, doing it the easy way. I mean, getting the whole assembly rather than doing it cheap. I was going to say, yeah, when we go in the shop, we want to assume that everything's going to take twice as long as it should. And that means we're going to be pleasantly surprised a lot. That means every once in a while it's going to take longer than we thought it's going to take. But I'll tell you, at least that way we won't start a job at 8 o'clock that there's no way we're going to get done before 10, because me and Rudy are old now and we have to take our nap. And it's a long day it's a 13-hour day for me. So I'm generous and kind as I can be, but after 13 hours, I kind of get a little tired every once in a while.
And if you're going to do struts, please don't show up at 7:30 wanting to start the job.
Yeah.
Get there at like
sure.
5:45 so we can start the job and get done early and be, hey, we're done, instead of showing up at like 7:45.
Right.
And at 8:45, we're just barely finishing up the front 2.
Yeah, well, because I got to tell you, one of the problems we have is that people assume, oh yeah, Rudy and Rocliffe and Chuck will always save us if we get into trouble. So then they like stand around and talk for 45 minutes. No, just assume Chuck's got, his own projects in mind. Rudy's got his own projects in mind, and Rocliffe's, got 15 different projects he's got to oversee. So it's there for you, but it's important that you don't act like it is. Right? It's like insurance.
Yep.
So that's my theory on that. Anyone got ideas on, well, we said TPMS. Yeah, dismount
New
inspection.
sensors and stuff.
We talked about TPMS sensors. Talked about repairing tires with a patch, so that's good. We're done with wheels and tires.
Can we do like the engine sensors one? Or
You
is
know,
that-
I have a real good lesson on tune-up, that I wanted to do for this class, but did we ever talk about engines in this class?
not yet. I mean, not this year. We did last-
Yeah, because that was my great fear, is that if I started talking about tune-up, we haven't talked about engines. Maybe we'll do engines in the second semester,
Okay.
because we got to do electrical before we do engines. I know that much. Yeah, so the problem with doing sensors is I would have to start talking about electrical, and hardly anybody's ready for that right now. So
Just a
a background.
suggestion.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, brake warning lights.
By the way, just a little side note, Dodge is in the shop.
Why am I not surprised? For what?
I'm getting the tranny rebuilt with extra heavy duty toe clutches. I'm using diesel tranny clutches in my gas powered truck.
Hey, Chuck Reyna, did I ever tell you about putting a new trans in a truck with 300,000 miles?
I think I've heard that story before. I could hear it again.
So how much is
Hey,
this?
but mind you, that 335,000 mile truck will still tow his F250 backwards.
I don't have an F-250. That's funny.
No,
Anyway,
I
the
do.
point.
I'll tow your 2,500 Suburban backwards too.
No, don't ever say that. Point I was trying to make, is that a 727? No, it can't be. What trans is that?
You know what? I really don't know.
How much is it costing you?
$1,000.
Oh, that's cheap.
Yep.
With the R&R?
Everything.
That's cheap. Okay. All right.
And
I approve.
with the extra heavy duty diesel clutch pack.
Right. Okay.
So it's not going with a standard clutch pack like I did the first time.
Are you getting a new converter for $1,000?
Everything. He's
That's
doing work
good.
on the converter to fix the stall speed so it locks up quicker.
I'm not
This
happy
this
about
truck
that.
is going to have basically the equivalent of a 2,500 tranny built inside the 1,500 tranny.
Oh, okay. Right. Good. Well,
I'm basically getting a 2,500 Ram trans put in my 1,500 Ram truck.
anyways, the point I was trying to make was brake warning lights. Brake warning light is what color?
Red.
Hello.
Red. Yeah, it's red.
Red.
No, yellow is the ABS light. That's different. See, because this is an important thing. The ABS light on means that your ABS system has a fault. Now, it usually means your ABS system is not going to work, but that's the analog brake system. For normal driving, I mean, you may drive your car 100,000 miles and the ABS system may never come on. Because remember, all the ABS system is doing is it's measuring wheel speed on all four wheels and trying to see if there's some discrepancy when you're braking. Now, if your luck runs well and you never have to panic stop, your ABS system may never activate, which would be cool. So ABS warning light is yellow because your brakes will still work even if your ABS doesn't. They just won't work as well and they'll work differently, but they'll still work. Brake warning light is going to be red. And we need to understand what can turn on the brake warning light, because after all, some of the stuff you should panic about and some you should not. Well, the brake warning light is red. when you start the engine. Okay, there's three things that turn on the brake warning light. Number one is parking brake is on.
Shift your paper over because we're losing half of what you're writing.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Thank you. Parking or emergency brake is on. Hey, did you ever get that Cobra finished?
Yes and no.
Oh, here it comes.
Yes, it's finished. It runs like a dream, but now it's throwing a secondary air pump code.
Oh, golly, I wish we were in the shop that we could get all over that.
Yeah, because that's driving me nuts, and I'm going to have to smog it in December.
Oh, shoot.
I
Really?
think.
Um,
I don't know.
Did I tell you that I attended the Bureau of Auto Repair's new smog laws at the California Auto Teachers Conference? And
Yes, you did.
all these spoofers that are simulators that people are using to do illegal smogs, they can tell in Sacramento if you're using them. And all they're doing right now is they're letting it go forward and they're building cases.
Wow.
Because every smog you do with a simulated, every illegal smog you do is a felony.
Wow.
So yeah, so
Time to get right.
yeah, I heard something about that. Parking brakes on. That's not anything to panic about. Just take it off when you're driving. Number two, fluid level, brake fluid level is low. That's on more modern cars that actually have a sensor for brake fluid. Now, if that sensor goes bad, it will still turn on your light. So I don't know if I'd panic, but what I would do is I'd
Check it.
stop the car, put it in park, open up the hood and see what my fluid level is. See if maybe that would explain the issue. The third one's the only really important one. That is a pressure imbalance. I've made so much money off of my 2 years at Citrus. I've made so much money. I've made millions of dollars off that investment. And I think it cost like $120, maybe $240 a year. So I probably invested $500 in my technical training, and that's made me millions. Because, Terry Smith taught me this back in 1980. That was 40 years ago. Gee whiz. Pressure imbalance. Oh. In a dual brake system. All right. If you look at a 1966 Chevelle, you're going to see that it has a single master cylinder. That means all the brakes are controlled by, we're going to go a little bit over, but we'll make it up on the other end. All the brakes are controlled at the same time, single master cylinder. 1969, that became illegal, and all vehicles were required to have dual master cylinders because now instead of having one brake system, now we have two.
That's so if one fails, you still have the other.
Right. Because the problem with a single system is if you had a bad brake hose, it would render the whole system unusable. Now, that's when you would use the parking brake or the emergency brake because that's a mechanical brake, just like the old Model A's and such. But that's not going to stop you the way you want it to stop you. Definitely not, especially since it's on the back brake, so it's not really going to do that good of a
It's
job.
going to put you into a drift.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Anyway, the point I was trying to make was if the system senses, because like most vehicles are going to have like what's called a combination valve, it's going to have the pressure sensor, it's going to have the metering valve, and it's going to have the, doggone it. Ever since I said that, now I'm all nervous. Metering valve and the proportioning valve. Thought I didn't know. What? Yeah, so it's going to have all these valves called a combination valve, and it comes out of the master cylinder. And what it's going to do is if you lose a brake line or something like that, if you lose pressure, if it senses an imbalance between the two systems, little plunger moves over and turns on your brake light. So 3 things that turn on the brake warning light. And
Turn on the ABS and brake light at the same time.
What, say what? I didn't hear you.
What would turn on the yellow ABS and the red brake light at the exact same time?
That's interesting. What kind of car?
Ram,
Fluid failure?
but my fluid level's full.
Master cylinder failure, maybe? I mean, because both Scantle. Ask Chuck, he's got an ABS Scantle.
Oh, so do I.
And
I've never been able to check the ABS, and when I had my mechanic check it, he said everything worked out perfectly.
you never been able to see, I've never had a cheap ABS scan tool that actually worked for me. That's why I'm kind of religious about not getting one, because I've never had it work out well for me. That's interesting. Did you look it up? Did you ask Mr. Google?
No, I have not.
Yeah. Okay.
Rudy, you talked about the brake lights and everything. Were the pads down to the metal?
Nope.
Okay.
Brand new pads, brand new shoes, brand new drums, and still every once in a while both lights will stay on.
Have you pulled the ABS sensor, see the many metal shavings on the bottom of it?
None of it. All of them were cleaned. I even pulled every sensor off, cleaned them myself, and put them back in, and
Brake
still
bleed.
the light.
Brake bleed.
But
Some
brake work fine when it's on. I mean, it stops perfectly.
Yeah, but you may not be feeling something that the ABS sensor is sensing. So I would do a brake bleed on that. And I would, many of your more modern vehicles, you can do an ABS bleed through the
Right.
scan tool.
Yeah.
That's probably how I would start.
You need
Okay.
some new sensors. That's what you need.
I need to also do a fluid flush anyways on that truck. It's about time.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, it is 7:33 and we went over. So I will see you at what, 7:50, something like that?
Okay.
Cool.
All right. I'll see you in a moment, folks.
Ready.
All right.
No, I need more talking.
Yeah. All right. So brake warning light. Now, this is sensors, right? Because there's a sensor that tells you if the parking brake is on. There's a sensor that tells you if the fluid level is low. And there's a sensor that tells you if there's a pressure imbalance in a dual system. Incidentally, while we're on this topic, Monday, I went to McDonald's about 6:30 in the morning in the beautiful 1999 Suburban. And I got my food. I paid for the food. I got my food. I'm at the freaking window. And I went to pull the shift lever down into drive. And it wouldn't move. Just freaking awesome. Yeah, 1999 Suburban. I step on the brake and I go to pull the shift lever into drive and it wouldn't move.
That would be the brake sensor, right?
Nope. No, that's what I thought. But it turns out that there's a solenoid, an interlock solenoid that makes it so you can't pull down the shifter until you have until you're stepping on the brake. Turns out it goes bad all the time.
Interlock, like the Ford has it down the center console. It's a lockout solenoid that keeps you from shifting it without your foot being on the brake.
Right. So I'm sitting there in the freaking McDonald's driving. There's all these cars behind me. It's 7:30, so the place is packed. And I'm like, great. Okay, so I called the freaking tow truck because I didn't know what to do. And I was parked really close to the window, so I couldn't hardly open the door. No, I turned it off, turned it back on, okay. So anyway, anyways, the tow truck driver shows up, pulls down into the to go lane, and he's already tilted the bed back like this, and he like he just like pushed the key in and he wiggled it, and it actually went into freaking drive. It was like awesome. Turns out this was the same guy that's towed my red Corvette. Well, he's towed 3 Corvettes for me, and he was the one that showed up. And it took him an hour. Incidentally, it took him an hour. So the weird part was all the people at McDonald's were so friendly and nice. I was like, well, this has really got to piss them off. So, anyways, that's the exciting story, and it cost me a tow with AAA, but now it's sitting out in my driveway, and I'm scorning it. I'm hoping it starts to feel guilty for what it did to me. But I just drove it home, and I haven't taken it out to get it fixed yet. But then I watched a bunch of videos on YouTube, and guess what? I found out that it's a common problem. It's like a $60 part, but I was ready to tow it to a shop and have them do it, which probably would have cost what, $400 or $500 on my $1,200 Suburban.
Maybe.
So, yeah. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here, folks. What we're
My
trying to
question would have been, I would have tried to turn the key on, but not actually start the engine and shift it into neutral, then fire it. Because if it would have shifted into neutral, you could have fired it in neutral and then hit it into drive and pulled away.
Yeah, if the shifter would have come down, but
But that's what I would have tried. I tried turning the key on without cranking the engine and seeing if the shifter let it go.
Yeah. So for some reason it let it go, and it let it go twice. And so I took it home, and that's about as far as I've gotten with it. But I can't do the under. I can do the under the dash, but I would pay for it bad. So I got to find me a little estudiante to come over and do the job for me.
And do you want me to come over?
You don't want to get into the dash. Although I saw a couple of videos, and on one video the guy took the whole bottom of the dash apart. The other guy was like, "Well, I saw on YouTube that you have to take the dash apart, but I didn't." And
no, all you gotta do is take that clip off around the steering column.
Yeah.
The panel around the steering column. That's it.
This dude didn't even do that. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Unfortunately, of course, since it's a 4-wheel drive, 3/4 ton, blah blah blah. Of course, the freaking solenoid is twice as expensive as it is on every other Suburban. But if you can fix it for $60, because I'm sure, we talked about pricing in this industry. They're gonna charge almost twice what they pay for this part, and then they're gonna charge you to install it. So I'm sure that'd be a $300 bill, $300, $400 bill. And it's like, if you can save $300, that's almost 15 minutes work for me, right, Chuck?
What's the year and make of that car again?
1999 Chevy Suburban K2500, 4-wheel drive, 3/4 ton, 454. It's a Dorman part, on Amazon, $56.
I'll look it up.
But I don't know. He said he said he got it to work by wiggling the switch. I mean, wiggling the key. I don't know. Maybe he just got lucky, but whatever it was, I guess we'd replace the solenoid and find out. I got to tell you, that's not something you want your family driving around in. You don't want them to get stuck on that. That could be a disaster. They could be in a Burger King drive-thru or something like that. You never know. They could be in an In-N-Out drive-thru. That would be a freaking disaster.
That would be a disaster.
Yeah. Oh, your food's getting cold. Yeah, I'm just like sitting there eating my biscuit because it's going to take like an hour for the tow truck driver to show up. Anyways, so that's the exciting tale. You got to have that Auto Club, folks. If Auto Club wants to send me a free membership for hyping it up, I'll tell you. It's all about the Auto Club.
Yep.
Give me some.
The way to go.
Toes. Give me some toes. Yeah, I could use an extra one. That was a joke. The point I was trying to make was all of these, what we have to do is we have to find out whether we actually have the problem that it says we do, or whether the sensor's dead. Because, for instance, Rudy's correct. There is a switch on the brake light on this 99 Suburban, and you're required to be stepping on the brake. Someone's got their mic on. You're required to be stepping on the brakes before you shift down into gears. Somebody's got their mic on. Yeah, there you go. So the point I was trying to make was that you have to step on the brake before you bring the shifter down, or it won't shift out of park. Now, here's the thing: if that brake switch goes bad, it's going to act like you're not stepping on the brakes, even if you are. So one of the things we have to do when we're searching for problems is we have to figure out whether we actually have the problem or just the sensor's bad. Like back in the day when the crankshaft position sensor used to go out, your engine would just die. And it didn't matter if you're going 70 miles an hour down the freeway, your engine would just die. So there's a couple of sensors like that. I mean, back in the olden days, if you lost like your map sensor, the engine would die. It would just freak out. Now it goes into what's called limp-in mode, which is like, okay, well, obviously this sensor reading is so bad that it can't possibly be true. We'll just substitute a substitute value just so you can get off the freeway. All right, so we need to understand the warning lights. That's the whole point of this lecture. We need to understand the warning lights and what their importance is and what to do about it. So the first thing we need to do is find out whether we got a sensor issue or whether we actually have a real problem. But as you can see, this is nothing to panic about. You shouldn't panic about this, but you should be concerned. And this thing, well, how would you fix that? You got a dual reservoir system. One of these reservoirs is probably going to be empty. It's probably going to end up giving you a low fluid level too. So that's that. I mean, the ABS system has made the brake system much more, significantly more complex. But remember,
Hey, that bulb must have, oh, it turned on.
remember, we don't have to study
The light went right on.
canine psychology for
Oh, I
4
didn't know.
years to teach a dog to sit, right?
Make sure you
I mean, the complexity of an item doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be difficult for us because we're not dealing with the technology of it all, right? Like a gaming computer or that has like a video card with 3 processors and 3 fans on it. Well, that's like an $800 card, right? That's a very sophisticated card, but we don't really have to know that much about it other than where to plug it in. I'm told that these cards plug into 2 different slots. And they're like, what, $1,500 for a graphics card? Students are all experts about this. They don't.
NVIDIA makes a good video card.
Yeah.
Or
They don't know how to change their oil, but oh, speaking of which, Chuck, did I tell you I got a lot of flat screens? I got flat screens for days. If you know anybody that wants them.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a brake warning light. Now you're noticing that a bunch of the stuff we do in this class is pretty low level, but behind the low level stuff, we got to figure out what's really crucial and what is kind of like interesting, like the ABS light. Now you can drive around with an ABS light on for 50,000 miles, but just know that if you get in an emergency braking situation, it's not going to work. Right now, if you have a customer's car and it's got an ABS light and you leave it like that and they get in a wreck, guess what? They'll be coming after you because it's a liability issue on your part. It's a safety issue. I mean, you may be willing to drive a car that's got an ABS problem, but don't expect everyone else to. And you sure as hell don't want to say, oh, you know what? I'll save you some money. I won't worry about this ABS light, because sure as shooting, if they get in some kind of accident, they're going to try to blame it on you and say, oh, well, yeah, it wasn't like that before I took it to this guy's.
That's crazy.
All right. Let's see. A couple of things. Here's a car. And like I said, I'm going off of this list that you should have. Do you? Here's a car. Oh, did I point out that the C8Z06 is going to have a flat plane 5.5 liter dual overhead cam engine, 600 horsepower, and a 9,000 RPM? That's going to sound freaking awesome. It's got the same. It's got the same red line as a S2000, but it's like twice the size. Yes, please. Okay, so here's the car, and it is there. The question is ride height. Ride height basically refers to how far off of the ground is the car. The thing is, where do you measure it? You know, I was watching the Mecum auctions and I saw 2017 Viper ACR and it was 8.4 liters. And I came to the realization, you know, 8.4 liters is just 20% bigger than 7 liter. So basically it's like my engine, the Z06 engine with an extra 2 cylinders. So I would get a Viper except it's a Dodge, and you know how Dodges are. All right, the question is, where do you measure ride height? Because a lot of times you might end up with a rake, you know, you might end up with the back end higher than the front end. Where do you measure ride height? Well, it depends on the manufacturer because there's a bunch of different places to measure it from. So that's what we need to know is where the manufacturer says to measure it. Where are we going to find that information?
For your vehicle?
It's not going to be in the owner's manual. Where are we going to find that
This
information? Yeah. That's
Owner
true.
manual.
I remember reading about that already.
Yeah. All right. I believe that, Code Man. Okay, so that's ride height. Let's see. Right now we're in the brake section. This right here is the brake pedal. Goes like this, and then it's got a pivot up here. You know, it's over here. It's connected to the brake booster, and then you got the master cylinder going that way. We already talked about that, but pedal goes right here. Just like ride height, there is a thing called pedal height. And pedal height refers to this distance here between the pedal and the floor. And that's supposed to be measured. I will tell you that this is not usually an issue unless you got some kind of problem in the master cylinder. That's not usually an issue. If it becomes an issue, that's a problem. Usually we know just by feel how far the pedal should go before it starts applying. So that's not a problem, but you know, if you start having issues with the pedal going down too far, which is terrifying, or the pedal hardly moving at all and then all of a sudden it applies, one of the first questions they're going to ask you is about the pedal height. Now, why would it apply almost immediately after you push the pedal? It's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to give you a little free play.
Yeah.
Kind of like an AR trigger, right? That was a joke. The point was, and it sure as hell ain't going to go supposed to go close to the floor before it starts applying the brakes. That usually tells me you've got air in the system. Well, there is a push rod here that activates the master cylinder. And on many cars, it is adjustable. So just be aware of that. I would be very suspicious, though, if the car came factory with an adjustment. I would be very suspicious about changing that adjustment because you might just give yourself 2 problems instead of just 1. So I would check that, see if it's been adjusted. You know, most of them aren't adjustable. But I would be much quicker to suspect some air in the system or something like that, which is causing your pedal height to be much less than it's supposed to be when you apply the brakes. All right. Pedal height, that means how far off the floor it is. Travel means how far it moves. And free play means how far it moves before it starts to apply the brakes. Now, there's something you need to know about that, especially since we have power brakes in every car. The power brake system is a vacuum assist system in almost every car. And what they don't want you to do is they don't want you to run out of power brakes, because then you would have to use your foot, and that's not good, especially if you're light or weak. So what they want to do is on vacuum assist systems, you should have 2 assisted pumps after the engine is shut off. That means even after you shut off the engine, you still should have power assist. 2 pumps, not 3, but you should have 2. That's so you don't just assume that you got power brakes and then find out that you don't. Like if you're rolling. See, what idiots used to, I mean, what people used to do is they'd say, oh, you know what, I'm going to save gas going down this hill and I'm going to turn off the motor and coast. Well, that's cool, except this is almost every car has a vacuum power assist. Engine vacuum only happens when the piston's coming down on the intake stroke. So if you turn off the engine, you're going to lose your power brakes. But they wanted to give you at least 2 chances to get your act together. So you should have 2 pumps. That's why there's a check valve in
Get the motor running again.
For instance, yeah, if the motor died, for instance. But usually because jackasses used to turn off the engine when they were going downhill. That's what the real problem. That's why there's a one-way valve in the vacuum hose that's going to the power brake booster. It's a one-way valve, so whatever vacuum it has in the booster, if the engine turns off, it doesn't escape. Thought I didn't know, but you did. Now, why is the hose going to the power booster the biggest hose in the car? I mean, biggest hose on the engine. Biggest vacuum hose on the
Because it
engine.
uses
the
the
pressure.
vacuum.
Well, when we look at a hose, we can tell a lot about the flow based on the size of the hose. Just like we can tell a lot electrically, we can tell a lot about how much current is flowing through a wire just by the size of the wire, because they're not going to put a really big wire and then put a little bit of current through it. So, same thing. You can tell a lot about what's expected to flow just by looking at the size of the pipe that it's supposed to flow through. Yeah. All right. Now, this test is on the ASE brake. Oh, I mean, you may see this question sometime again soon. When you step on the brakes and start the engine, the pedal is going to sink, or at least it should. That's normal operation. Step on the brake. Start the engine. Pedal will sink. And in fact, you know, you could try that tonight and you'd see it for yourself. That's normal operation. And they always ask this question because that's something you're expected to know. All that's happening is the vacuum assist is sucking the master cylinder further applied. So, normal operation. Check master cylinder for external leaks and proper operation. Do you know what the master cylinder is supposed to do? You know how it's supposed to act? Let me ask you a question. Master cylinder is supposed to be freaking dry, right? How dry? Very dry, right? We don't want to mess with our brake system. Our brake system has to be primo. So, master cylinder's got to be dry. Now, if we have any external leaks, that's very odd. Sometimes they put too much fluid in it and that's going to get brake fluid all over the place. I'm going to use brake cleaner to clean it off to see if it comes back. You hardly ever get a leak out of brake lines because they're so high pressure, you know, it's like most people are smart enough not to mess with brake lines unless they know what they're doing. You get a lot of spillover from the reservoir though. Especially, I'll tell you, the most common reason your master cylinder is going to get wet is people are going to fill up the brake reservoir.
Overflowed it before changing brakes.
Yeah, people are going to fill up the reservoir and then the brakes are going to wear which pushes the pistons out and the calipers further. And then they're going to fill it with more fluid. And then when they replace the pads, they're going to take a vise or a caliper spreader, and they're going to push the piston back in. And there's going to be so much brake fluid that it's actually going to come out of the reservoir. That's the most common cause of a wet master cylinder. And just remember, brake fluid is alcohol. It'll peel paint. So if you get brake fluid on anything, you need to get it off. That's why we're going to be very, very careful when it comes to brakes. We're not going to use,
ASAP.
yeah, if we use rags, we're going to get them the hell away from the car. Because if you lay that rag on the fender and it's got a little bit of brake fluid on it, it'll peel the paint right off it. Gotta watch out for that. So, gotta watch where the brake fluid's going because it'll peel paint. And I'll just make a public service announcement. Do me a favor and put a trash can with a liner underneath whatever brake you're trying to bleed. That way it's not going to get on my beautiful floor, which isn't really that beautiful anymore. But it is painted.
Didn't they just epoxy the floor?
Yeah, but the problem is now it tracks. So everything you roll on top of it leaves like skid marks.
Oh,
Yeah. They use a really light color, super light color. It's almost white. So anyway, it would have been cooler if it was blue though, right? If it was blue, that would have been cool. Anyways, we can change it. I have a spray can. We can
especially
change
with actual arrows embedded into the floor for alignment on that one angled rack.
You don't like my little pink string? My little pink string is cool. What are you talking about? What you
It's
talking
not
about?
good. It's not there no more.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we solved that problem finally. I finally figured that one out. Anyways, the point I was trying to make was that there is another issue with master cylinders that you need to be aware of. So let me show you what it looks like so that you can diagnose the problem when you see it. Man, Chuck, there's always so many tools. Because now I want this and I want the back probe set and a blah, 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 blah. And pretty soon, you know, $200 like that. I was thinking, actually, I could probably get a Power Probe 4 and just put it in my Power Probe 3 box. I'm not sure if it would fit, but it would be cool if it did. And then I could just sell the Power Probe 3 without, well, I could sell it with the Power Probe 4 box. You know, then I could sell it cheaper. Like, if you're interested, I mean, I don't know. Do you see a use for all the extra accessories that came with the Power Probe 3 that I gave you?
No, I haven't had a chance to really use them all, so.
Yeah, me either. So, you know, it's marginally useful. How about leaking master cylinder? Now, this is an important symptom that most people are going to miss. So I wanted to show you. Come on. Right there. Yep. Well, that is the typical classic sign of a leaking master cylinder. If it's not, what you're looking at is you're looking at the junction of the back of the master cylinder and the front of the power assist unit. There's actually a seal on the inside of the master cylinder that often leaks. And when it leaks, the brakes are going to work fine because it's not that type of seal. But what it will do is it'll strip all the paint off of the bottom of the power assist unit. And you'll say, well, that's very odd to look at. Well, actually, it's a symptom that you've got a failed master brake cylinder. So be on the lookout for this. If you see this, you need to replace the master cylinder, because if I figure if the back seal's failed, then the front seal is probably not doing much better. As you can see, all of these power assist units all have the same basic look, which is to say they're missing paint. See, they're missing paint right underneath where the master cylinder bolts to the power assist unit. Anyway, I wanted to show you that because it's not going to, well, there's your good friend, Scotty Kilmer. He's going to help you. Yeah, I looked it up. He didn't give me any tools. So the reason I bring that up is because most people are going to miss that unless you've had some training. And what that's going to do is it's bad. I mean, I don't like bad master cylinders. Now, while we're on the subject of bad master cylinders, are we going to rebuild? Yeah, see right there. Come on. See that rust? That comes from a leaking in the back master cylinder. Now, are we going to rebuild that? No,
Cheap to buy one.
don't ever try to rebuild a master cylinder, a caliper, or a wheel cylinder. It's cheaper and faster and a billion times better to buy one, because that finish on the master cylinder, the caliper, and the wheel cylinder, it's not even honed, it's burnished. Burnish means that they don't even use a cutter. What they use is a big mandrel, a big piece of steel with a ball bearing on it, and they feed that through it, and that just mashes it fine, finer than any hone ever, finer and rounder than any hone ever could. Which is why when some jackass goes down to the store and buys a brake hone and he's no way, never in a million years. That, first of all, it'll never get it round. Second of all, it'll never get it the smooth finish that you're going to need to make seals last. And so okay, so you rebuild a master cylinder because you're trying to save your buddy $10, right? Well, then when the master cylinder fails and he runs into the back of a freaking Jaguar, you can bet he's coming after you, guaranteed. You know what I used to say when I was your age? I used to say, trying to save the customer money will cost you money. That's what I used to teach my students in LA Unified. Trying to save the customer money will cost you money. Because it will. Because it will. I mean, when I work on your car, you're going to save money, or Scott Brown or Quality Auto or whatever. When they work on your car, the money you're going to save is the fact that they're not going to replace a bunch of crap that didn't need replacing. All right. So it's the diagnostics that's going to nail it. In fact, I was watching that pierced insulation video from Scott Brown, and all it was someone pierced the insulation and then it got wet and it corroded the wire. But they replaced the computer and they replaced something else, and I can't remember what it was, but whatever, it was like $1,500 worth of parts that they replaced. And they were just changing out parts, and it didn't fix it. So the customer towed it out of that shop and brought it over to Connie and Dick's, where it actually got fixed. Yeah, they replaced $1,500 worth of parts. That's the money you save, right? Lo barato sale caro. Yeah, that's the money you save by having your top diagnostician. And I got to tell you, Scott Brown's going to charge. Well, he charges a lot, but it's probably a fraction of what he's worth. I mean, because
less than you would spend, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I mean, he's got a lot of expensive equipment he needs to support. So, yeah, he's you're going to get charged for it, but then again, it's going to be done right, and you're not going to have to come back in 3 weeks because he didn't really fix the problem or blah blah blah, or he used bogus parts or something like that.
Yeah.
See, he's been doing this a long time. It's like, yeah, he wants to use GM parts because he knows he can warranty them. Okay, well, I'm cheap and lame. And it's like, he's just looking at me like, really, dude? Like, yeah, sorry, I don't mean to be like this. So usually we don't see leaks around the brake lines unless some really lame jackass has been on them. But we see this kind of nonsense all the time. So just be aware of it, because when you see it, you want to see it. I got to tell you, changing these vacuum assist systems is an insanely huge pain. I don't suggest it. These things, because those bolts go into the firewall. Yeah, these bolts go into the firewall. Actually, we changed the Hydro Boost on the Suburban 2 times. And it's the same 4 bolts. I was just lucky I had some students from last year that just whipped it out. Yeah. Which is good too, because that's a freaking bear of a job. And fortunately, she was really, you remember Maria from last year? Yeah, she's good. She's good under the dash. She's good. She's working all the time. You know, there was a big lull there where the economy just took a total dive, but I was her confirmation sponsor. That was cool.
What's the
Except we're all-
confirmation sponsor?
except we are all 6 feet apart, so quack. But anyways, I wanted you to be aware of that. Determine necessary action. Okay, so we're looking for external leaks and proper operation. We already did that. Inspect brake lines, flexible hoses and fittings for leaks, dents, kinks, rust, cracks, bulging wear, loose fittings and supports. Determine necessary action. Okay, there's 2 types of brake lines.
Hard line and soft line.
Yep. 2 types of brake lines. Now, can you do these inspections in your driveway and use that to check it off? Sure. Yeah.
But it'd be better if you had a hoist.
Well, yeah, of course, and it would be much faster too. But if you want to make progress through this chart, that's what you should do. What's the name of this chart? The name of this chart is 2017 NATEF Task List, Maintenance and Light Repair, except they don't call it NATEF anymore. Did I ever send you guys the link for that?
I don't think so.
Boy, you should get your money back. I don't think you learned anything either. MLR Task List. NATEF MLR Task List. Let's see. 2017. No, we need 2017. Let's look. 2017. Because the problem is, shoot. The problem is they changed their name. 7. Yeah, there you go. Auto upkeep. Oh, auto upkeep doesn't too. I don't like that as much, but it's there. Auto upkeep. I mean, you bought the book. You might as well take the resources, right?
They have an app.
What?
They have an app now.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What's the app?
What do you do?
Let me look.
What do you do with it?
It's got like work activities and different videos.
Activities. You know how I feel about activities.
Yeah, and it's got videos and just different stuff like that. Some of the chapters in there.
More room for activities.
I'll have to look it up and I'll give it to you guys next week.
Okay, here's where you're supposed to get it is the ASC Education Foundation. And coronavirus.
I hope not.
Yeah, better not.
Well, actually, you can get it on Google Play. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
What is it? Resources?
For those Apple lovers, your Apple store.
Or that, yeah.
2017 auto task list.
There's truck task list, auto task list. That's right. Go to auto task list right there. And it comes out as an Excel spreadsheet. And you could just put your name on it, blah, blah, blah. There you go. Now that's interesting. Can you see the Excel sheet right now? Yeah, probably not, huh? Okay, so I'm getting it as an Excel, so let me just put it away somewhere behind everything, which it probably won't be. No, it did go behind everything. So that's what I would do. Then you'll know what I'm talking about. That's supposed to auto task list. But if I go like this, it's just going to download it as a okay, so I'll keep that. 2 types of brake lines. What are they? They're hard and flexible. Okay, so why do we have hard brake lines? Because the failure rate of a hard brake line is many millionths of a flexible line's failure rate. Now, here's some important things about that. Here's some important things about that. Many people say, well, I don't know where to get steel brake lines, so I'm just going to use copper lines. No, we're talking about pressures that are way too high for copper. Plus, copper has this characteristic called work hardening, which means if it vibrates, what happens is it starts to get hard, and hard is not good. Hard is not strong. hard is hard like glass, and what happens is it ends up cracking and breaking, and then you have no brakes. So don't
can
ever
just,
use copper.
You can just buy the hardline kit for your vehicle now. They sell them.
Yeah, I mean, you can get steel brake lines pretty much anywhere now. You know, do you have the bending stuff? Well, if you don't have the bending stuff, you know what you should do? You should not, you should, right? We shouldn't be hacking brakes, right? If we're going to do brakes, we're going to do brakes right. Right, Jerry?
Just buy the kit that comes with all the fittings and everything on it, and it's already mandrel bent to fit your application exactly perfect. You don't need to bend it. You don't need to flare it. You don't need any tools except maybe the ones to unratchet it off the frame and replace said hard line.
Sounds expensive. I'm just talking about if you need one line. Okay, so Rudy brought up this question of flaring. And you know, we said flare nut wrench is what we usually call tubing wrenches. This question of flaring is a big deal because brakes are double flared. Let's see, go here. Brake. Ooh, on-car brake line flaring tool. I've never seen one of those. What's all this, Chuck? I haven't seen all this cool stuff. Guess I've been out of the game.
That's what you're gonna have.
I've been out of the game for a long time, you know. Okay, well, this right there is different types of flares, and what flares refers to is the ending of the brake line, and that's got to be done perfect, folks. If you can't do brakes perfect, don't do brakes, because you know the kids at my school, they're all concerned about going fast, but going fast don't do you no good if you can't stop and slow down. Yeah, right. So the flaring refers to the end you put on the brake line, and that's got to be primo, and it's got to be done right, because there's single flares and double flares, and you got to make sure you do this right, or don't do it at all. As you can see, there's a bunch of different ends right here, and there's a bunch of different pipe sizes. I wouldn't buy a flaring tool. I wonder if you think they would rent that at AutoZone? That seems like too hardcore for that, but you know, you never know. Okay, so that's the thing about solid brake lines. Usually you're not going to have a problem with solid brake lines.
For you.
For every problem you have with solid brake lines, you're going to have a million problems with flexible brake lines, because flexible brake lines flex. And so you're going to end up with, well, let's see how fast I can do this, because I don't want to over detail it. Okay, you don't have my paper, huh? So let me come here. Come on. There we go. All right, so you're going to have that little flared end, and then it's going to come into, Chuck's all reminiscing about how much fun he had doing brakes.
I've done that before.
Yeah. What, reminiscing or brakes?
No, do a double flare.
Yep. We used to have to do those in school just to show that we could. I have a lot of happy memories with citrus.
I did it once, and my teacher was amazed that I could do it.
Yeah, right. All right, so that's going to come around like that, and then it's going to have a steel
because
end.
mine didn't leak after when he pressure tested it. All the other students first tried leaked.
Yep. Now between here and here, this is metal.
What?
Down here, this is rubber though. And it has to be rubber because on the front wheels, they have to go like this.
He said stay away from infinities.
They go like this too. Yeah, absolutely stay away from infinities. Sorry, but you'll be sad if you don't. You'll be very sad if you don't.
Necessarily be sad. Your bank account will be sad.
Well, I mean, if you're rich, of course you can do what you want, but so my point was, this is a flexible brake hose, and it's got a middle part here that actually screws in. Use a flare nut wrench, of course, so you don't strip these threads. But this part's rubber, and they tend to fail right where the rubber meets the metal, because what happens is the rubber's going like this, and it eventually cuts itself open on the sharp edge of this fitting. We don't fix brake lines. No, we don't. We go down to the Stody-Do-Do and we get a new one. And then we're happy. Now, my question to you is, do we need to bleed the brakes after we replace a brake hose?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why? Why?
Because you've opened the brake
Savings.
system.
You don't want air in it.
Well, yeah, of course, but there's a general principle that we need to observe. Shoot, sorry.
You've opened the brake system. Therefore, it must be bled.
Anytime the hydraulic system, that's, because Rudy's basically right, but we need to make a distinction. Anytime the hydraulic system is opened, the brakes must be bled. What does bleeding mean? Well, in Spanish, we would call it purgando, and purgando means to get rid of the stuff you don't want. In this case, that would be the air in the system.
Purging.
Yeah. In this case, we're getting rid of the air in the system. So when we do this, a lot of times, like the fitting's going to go this way.
Cobra's engine of air for the cooling system.
For instance, yeah, but this is, yeah. I was going to say, a lot of times this fitting will be pointed in a certain direction, or maybe this hose will be pre-curved in a certain direction. You make sure that you duplicate the hose you're taking out in terms of the direction of the fittings and stuff like that, because we want to make sure that we're not pre-stressing this hose when we install it. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we want to definitely make sure we're not pre-stressing this hose. So we're going to make sure it's not twisted like this or torsion or something like that. We're going to be very careful about that because, there's a lot at stake. Now, while we're on this topic, a lot of times these hoses will swell. Swelling means they get bigger. But the big problem is not only do they get bigger on the outside, but they swell on the inside too. And what it does is it closes off the hose. So a lot of times what will happen is you'll apply the brakes, which will have enough pressure to shoot past this blockage. But when the brakes, when you take your foot off the brakes, retract, it won't have enough pressure to push the brake fluid back. So what it'll have is it'll give you a caliper or a wheel cylinder that will not disengage. It'll just stay applied.
Locked up.
Locked up, yeah. Now, that'll give you a pull. That'll give you a pull when you're not using the brakes. That's interesting. It'll give you a pull when you're not using the brakes, but then when you use the brakes, it'll go straight. Except when it's applying the brakes, what'll happen is that brake will wear so quickly that eventually you'll get a pull when you use the brakes. It'll go the opposite direction because that caliper won't be applying. It'll be basically frozen. So one of the things we do when it comes to a frozen caliper, we say, oh, well, the caliper must be bad. No, check the hose too. Now, what's going to cause the hose to swell? Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Not changing the brake fluid frequently enough.
No, I don't think so. The biggest problem most people have is they put oil of some sort into the brake reservoir. If you do that, it destroys all the rubber in the brake system. You have to replace all the rubber in the brake system. And if you want to use any part of that brake system again, you got to flush the hell out of it because that rubber reacts to the petroleum in the oil. So that's going to make everything swell. You got to watch out for that. And if it ever happens, you need to get rid of all the rubber in the system and flush everything out, which means basically you're replacing the whole brake system. If I was going to do that, I would fill it back up with .5, you know, something bitching. But most cars, you know, it's not worth it. Anyway, if you see that problem, you don't want to say, okay, yeah, I can fix that, right? Because you don't want to take on any brake job that's not going to be done perfect after you're done. The liability is just through the roof.
Plus someone could die.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, a lot of times you get petroleum on the outside, it's going to cause swelling and splitting and all kinds of problems like that. Anytime you see liquid on the outside of this hose, if it's brake fluid, no, shut it down. You ain't driving this car. That's a huge deal because, I mean, it tends to go bad all at once. So, unfortunately, if I see a big old leak or a split on the side of this hose, you ain't going anywhere. I'm not going to lose my credential and my sweet job to take a chance on you getting home. I would rather loan you the money and get you the freaking hose than take a risk like that. Me and Rudy come out of LA Unified where it was not uncommon. Harbor Rock. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. It was not uncommon where people would be driving, and this actually happened. People were driving and the freaking steering wheel came off. Or
Yep.
people were driving and then the rear wheel went rolling past them. And slammed the head for mortar. That's not a battle, huh? Yeah, more bricks, less straw. The point I was trying to make was, anytime you open up the hydraulic system, the brakes need to be bled. Now, if you just push the piston back to put in new pads, do you need to bleed the brakes? No, but it's not the world's worst idea. A lot of times what I'll do is I will open up the bleeder screw and then I'll push the piston back just because the dirtiest, nastiest fluid is going to be inside the caliper. So it's an easy way to kind of get a little head start on flushing the brakes. Now, why is the dirtiest, nastiest fluid in the caliper? Because the caliper is the hottest part, and we know that heat is going to increase the rate of chemical reactions. And, you know, rust is a chemical reaction. So that's why. I mean, almost always, if I see a car, it needed its brake fluid changed 10 years ago, and it didn't happen yet. So that's one of the things we do. We got a lot of brake fluid. Brake fluid's cheap. So if you ever want to flush your brake fluid, get two big cans, and we'll clear it out. Then you'll be happy because, whatever problems you have are going to stop. I mean, it's not going to fix the problems that you've had by not changing your brake fluid, but at least it won't get any worse. Okay, so flexible brake lines. A lot of times you'll see braided steel over these brake lines for impact protection. Problem is, it makes the rubber hard to inspect. So
Especially on lifted vehicles.
yeah, so let's be, well, of course, because then everybody can see how cool you are. But let's be very suspicious about brake lines, and not because we're suspicious of trouble, but because it's an easy way to make things a lot better, and it's very soothing to the soul to know that that's not an issue with this car. Yeah, that's all we're doing. Yes, sir.
Real quick, I have a question on what's your favorite method on bleeding? Going from the furthest tire and work your way back in, or bleed the front and then jump to the rear?
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because Pascal's law tells us that in a closed system, the pressure is the same everywhere and in all directions. It doesn't matter. I like to start with the one that's closest to me.
Okay,
More Terry Smith.
so that's going to be the front driver's side. The
No, it
left
depends
front.
where I'm standing. Yeah, I start with whichever one's closest to me, and it depends where I'm standing. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I thought when you asked what's my favorite method of bleeding that you're going to ask whether I like to gravity bleed or two-person or whatever. But
I prefer two-person, and I prefer to start at the furthest tire from the master.
All right.
okay. I mean, these are good things to know because I mean, like, we got a lot of old wives' tale in this industry, right? And people think that they understand it, so they come up with an answer. Like I noticed that in the Chris Fix videos, he's got 4 or 5 things where he doesn't really understand, but that's because he never went to school. I mean, going to school is a great advantage, folks. I mean, I don't know if you guys are working in the industry, you've probably noticed that you've learned a lot of stuff in this industry. You could be in this industry for 30 years, you wouldn't know them because this is stuff you only learn at school. I got to make money off my $300 investment, 2 years. Well, I mean, 30 years from now, the money you spend at a community college, how much does a community college cost per year?
46 per unit.
$1,700 full time, $1,700 a year. So cheap, so cheap. You can't even get a decent used car for that. And most of the people in this room would get, $6,000.
But
Most
you
of my,
probably turn a cheap used car into a decent car for that amount
yeah, if you got
through
lucky.
the class.
I'm just saying that most of my students will get paid $6,000 a year in grants, not loans. They'll get paid $6,000 a year to go to a community college. They'll have to pay what, $2,000 of that in tuition and books, and the rest is just like funny money. So it's like they're buying you a used car if you just go to community college, and they still won't go.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's disturbing. And then and then they complain about why their life sucks and why other people have a better life than them.
And it's actually fun.
I
like school.
So that's the thing about flexible brake lines. As I said, the failure rate on these is 1,000,000 times higher than hard ones, but you do need to know that's a double flare. This is pretty hardcore stuff. This is not the place to go cheap. Yeah, brakes is not the place to improvise. All right, so it says right here, select, handle, store, and fill brake fluids to proper level. If your .3 brake fluid or .4 brake fluid or .2, whatever, if your .3 brake fluid is 2 years old, you need to take that bottle and pour it down the sink, which is legal because it's treated for that. It's just an alcohol. You need to pour that crap down the sink before somebody gets the great idea of using it. Because remember, in 5 years, 50% of your brake fluid could be water. So we don't keep old brake fluid. We don't get big gallon jugs of brake fluid unless you're doing brake jobs all day long, every day. I might get a big bottle, but the only time I'm going to get a big bottle is when I'm going to try to flush a brake system. Other than that, I'm going to get a bunch of small bottles because as soon as you open a bottle, it starts going bad. It's like hydrogen peroxide. You ever had hydrogen peroxide? It has a certain smell, but if you leave a bottle, even if you put the cap on tight, you come back in 9 months and all that H2O2 is turned into H2O and it's basically water.
Yeah.
So you can't really store hydrogen peroxide for very long, and you definitely can't store brake fluid for very long. If there's some in your garage that's freaking 15 years old, and I know pretty much everyone in this room probably has that, get rid of it before you get tempted to, oh, well, I don't want to go down to the store right now. I'll just use it. No, don't. Old brake fluid is very, very bad. I got some really good bread from Claro's, and like 3 days later it was spoiled. I was like, no, because I was waiting to make a sandwich with it. Garlic cheese bread, like homemade stuff. I was like, I looked at it and it was green. I was like, but me so hungry. All right, so fill brake fluids to proper level. On the side of your reservoir, it's probably going to say min, max, whatever. Just follow the instructions. Select, handle, and store. Okay, so we're not going to put it.
You know your brakes are new.
What's that? What? You're cutting out.
Don't add brake fluid unless you just replace the brake pads.
That's correct. And don't keep filling it up, because that way when you push the pistons back, it's just going to puke brake fluid all over the place. So I actually use the brake fluid level in the reservoir. I'm going to do exactly what Rudy said. When I put in new brake pads, then I'm going to put the level up where it's supposed to be. And then as I see the level go down, that's going to give me an indication of how worn my brakes are. That's kind of cool, unless I add more fluid, in which case I've lost that indicator. So that's my theory on that. Identify components of brake warning light system. Yeah, I pretty much did that. Bleed or flush brake system. We already talked about that. Test brake fluid for contamination. What, by color?
It'll drop on your tongue.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is alcohol, right? What color is new brake fluid?
Reddish.
Light.
Light gold and clear.
I'm thinking of transmission.
Yeah. So when you look in your brake reservoir and you see a bunch of dark brown crap, that's all rust. Incidentally, while we're on that topic, because we're running out of time, turns out, I went to this vascular surgeon from Harvard. Turns out this discoloration on my leg right there, see that? You've seen it before. That's all iron that got stuck in my leg, and then my heart wasn't strong enough to pull it back. But I just realized, you know why it's orange? Because the iron is reacting to the water in the blood. That's actually rust. I've got rusty legs.
Wow.
What the hell? Yeah, isn't that funny?
Hands are turned orange.
So as we understand more about how the world works, we get a lot of insights. Get a lot of useful insights. So I gotta be careful about walking around magnets. That was a joke, but not really. Oh, quack. I wonder if metal detector goes off. All right, what are you trying to pull? He's already on the watch list. Well, that's that whole section. That's good. Shoot. Well, it's 8:51, so I got it. Yeah, I got any requests for next week? We've got. Oh, do we have 6 weeks? Let me try. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks left of this semester. So, what do you want to do for 5 weeks? Did you enjoy our march through the task list tonight? Did you find that helpful, useful?
Yeah. Are we gonna do anything on suspensions?
Didn't we?
Thought
Like
we
what?
touched on it.
Tell me more what you're interested in, because I thought we did suspensions a lot.
I want to get a smoother ride on that F-250. Too old to be bouncing now.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of that is the fact that F-250 is supposed to carry a lot of load.
Right.
As a result, it's built
Hard ride.
or tough. Yeah, it's built with a very stiff suspension because it's got to take all that load. Through the ride, do you have custom wheels on it? Custom tires?
No. Everything.
The tires on those are supposed to be really, really tall. So as a result, that should give you a lot of air cushion. That should give you a smoother ride. But yeah, one of the problems with the F-250 is it's just built with a heavy suspension. So it's going to be hard.
The tires that are on the F-250 are also like 9-ply sidewall tires too. They're
True.
heavy duty load tires.
Oh, you probably got real truck tires. Are the trucks are the tires LTs or Ps?
LTs.
Yeah, those are actual
That's
real.
why.
Tires. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're like 5-ply sidewall tires, so they're real rigid.
Okay.
It's literally designed for work only, not for the comfort of the ride. So the only way to oversee that would be to bag the rear end. Basically put an air helper spring in, and it'll cut down some of that bounce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, money.
Yeah, I think I was looking at 3 G's for that.
Yeah, I think I'd probably buy a balloon and sit on that.
The other choice would be is maybe change your seat out to an air ride seat, so you get that comfort in the seat, not in the actual truck itself.
Yeah.
Those are some options. Okay.
Or you could get one of those little donuts you sit on. You could go down to the 99-cent store and get, blow up a pool toy. So many options. All right. Well, I know that Chuck wants us to measure brake drum diameter and stuff like that. So just to keep him happy, we'll do what he wants. But that's going to get us through steering, suspension. We already talked about alignment, right? Yeah, it's going to get us through steering, suspension, brakes, wheel bearings. Yeah, okay. We've done most of it. So in the next 5 weeks, we should be able to get through the whole list. So you'll at least know how to do it at home if you want to do it at home, and then be prepared for later. What are we trying to accomplish here? Well, this is a adult school class, so we're supposed to be preparing you for entry-level jobs. But I know most of you probably aren't looking for an entry-level job in the automotive industry. It's a good industry, a lot of opportunities. So what we'll do is we'll just keep going down the list. Do me a favor, download that list and print it and start checking stuff off so that I know what's a pressing issue for you, and we can organize our remaining time that way. And I think what we could do is next semester we could do tune up and electrical. Yeah. I hope that wasn't you, Rudy.
Yeah.
Nowhere near training.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Hey, do
somebody.
you know what this is by any chance?
That's funny.
It's a clock, isn't it?
I don't know. It like pulls and it has like a scale kind of thing on it or something.
Yeah, it's for fish, right? You catch a fish.
I don't know. I got it in a bag full of stuff from a thrift store. I don't know. That's why I'm asking if you know what it is. But yeah, it looks like it's some kind of scale or pressure tester or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What units is the scale in?
I'd have to get my glasses. Hang on. I don't know where they're at. I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah, that looks like a scale you weigh fish with.
That's what I thought.
Or it could be for trigger weight. I've seen it looks familiar. So.
Also, yeah.
I know, but you have to pull on it really hard to get. Whoops.
Not anymore.
Cliff.
Doc, what's going on?
We're talking about tune-ups and various components. I seem to be running more into issues of evap problems.
Yep.
That's part of the tune-up and part of getting your car smogged. I think having the smoke machine is one aspect, but the other aspect is knowing how to test the fuel pressure tank sensor, the charcoal tester, and the thing is with the scanners, the low-end scanners, there's no way to two-way communicate to activate these solenoids to see if there's a pressure drop within the tank.
No, you got to have the factory scan tool to do that. I mean, you don't need the factory scan tool, but you need a scan tool that will actually go into the factory software.
Right. So that's
Like
why I'd like to learn how to do that.
Yep. Good. Okay. Well, let's put it this way, Chuck. Remind me if I forget, but what we'll do first thing next time is we'll do evap systems. Yeah.
Hey, Chuck, if you want to just learn how to do it, come over and shoot me a text. I'll give you my address where I'm staying at, and we can do it on my Ford with my scan tool.
Well, you're talking about that one from Harbor Freight?
Yep.
I have the same scanner.
Yeah, come over. I'll show you how to do it.
It does an evap test because I didn't see it when I tried it.
Mine will do it.
Okay.
Is it mode 6? No. Okay, really? That seems very suspicious to me because that seems like a bidirectional control.
Yeah. I don't think it does it, but I'm gonna look at mine real quick.
Mine will do KOEO, KOER, and let me.
Yeah, but that's not what he's talking about. He's not talking about getting a code. He's talking about activating.
It will let me run the system test on the car, including the evap system test, which will then trigger all your evap sensors to activate. I know because I've done it on my Ford Flex.
What model is that again? Because I think I have the same one you have.
I don't know. I'll have to text me and I'll shoot you a picture of it tomorrow. It's out in the Flex.
Okay. All right.
I'll
Well,
tell you right now which one I have. The Zurich, the ZR13.
Let me set it up. This.
You see it? Ah, that's the scanner there.
I don't think mine's the ZR13.
You got the higher one?
Yeah,
That might do it. Yeah.
because mine has a red face on it, not the gray
That's fine.
face
Mine has a red face too.
or black face. I mean,
Well, I have the ZR13.
again, shoot me a text. Just say hi, and I'll shoot you a picture tomorrow of it. Because I got to get into the Flex
There's the
and
Maxi, sis. That's the one right there.
How much was that one?
yeah,
1,500.
How much?
1,500.
Woo.
Well, I thought someone jacked the scanner from school back when we only had one. I thought someone jacked it, and then I
Yeah, but the scanner you have, Mr. Oakcliffe, that's VCI or is that the J2532?
Huh?
The communication.
I've got two of the VCI units, I think.
Because I know that model you're talking about, $1,500 is only VCI, not the J box.
Probably. It's a 906, right? It's a MS 906 BT.
Yeah, I think that's only VCI. I don't think it's J box compatible. Gotta look at the specs because that's where it goes into the $3,000 scanner to get the J box capability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a two-way communication, real two-way. The VCI is Bluetooth, really.
Right. Are you saying it won't do two-way communication?
It does limited, not the full one, like the J box.
I'll have to figure that. Now you've hurt my feelings on a recording.
No, because I want to buy that same one you have, but it's only VCI and not J box compatible. There's some limitations on what the two-way communication will offer you. So when you go to the $3,500 one, then you got all the capabilities or more capabilities to test.
Well, I apologize for disappointing you.
No, it's a kick and it might do evap for all I know. You know what I mean with the VCI.
I haven't run into a problem with it, but
No, I'm gonna get one, but I'm stuck at am I gonna spend $1,500? Am I gonna move up to the $3,500 one?
is it going to make you money? That's the thing. Is it going to make you money? I would have a hard time spending $3,000 on something
then
that's gonna make you money.
Then after that, after a year, you got that $1,000 or $800 to keep your subscription up.
Of course, you don't really need to update it because it's like, why would you need 2019 software? I mean, it's under warranty, right?
Well, the thing is that, there's always patches and updates, on, certain models, that they come across.
Yeah, but Chuck, I got to tell you, in my experience, most of the updates you get on these Autels are for weird crap that's either foreign stuff that you never see or other stuff that you hardly ever see, but it's usually foreign stuff like weird brand names that they don't.
I think mostly for Dodge. I think that's what it is.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, if if you ever want to become a billionaire, become a Chrysler technician. In fact, RCC, they'll teach you how to be a Chrysler technician.
Oh, a job for life.
Roasted. Good, but that $1,000 for a transmission job, that's cheap, dude. I hope it works out well for you. I mean, I can't get it that cheap. But anyways, folks, it's been wonderful. I always look forward to this class. It's a good time. So
thanks.
have a great weekend. Remember, Veterans Day is on Wednesday, and I will see you Thursday. Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, good
All
night.
right.
Thanks.
Night.
Thanks so much.
Safe. Let's see.